whilst we're in the car, there was this girl called Becky. I kept calling him Becky with the good hair. Hey lovelies, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is your girl, Aisha Barado. Let's get into it. So we haven't done a story time video in a while, and I want to start giving you more chit chat videos and story time videos. Let me know if that's what you want to see on this channel. Let me know in the comment section below. Let's get into today's video. So girl, I wanted to talk to you guys about my worst date experience ever. So girl, if you guys don't know, your girl is on the market. Your girl has been dating a lot recently. So I was in a relationship last year, and we broke up in August. And so since then I've sort of been, you know, I took a break, but now I am dating. And so, you know, your girl's been trying to date, you know, so I joined a few dating apps. So I joined a few dating apps. I'm not share with you which one it is, just in case someone's on there being like, let me go look for you on a dating app, honey. So yeah, I ain't gonna tell you, but I joined a few dating apps. And so initially I was using the dating app almost like a pen pal thing, where I would talk to people, but like I would not sort of progress it into like anything else as such. It was almost like we talk for a few months, things fizzle out, and then we move on and everyone minds their business and nothing comes of it, and we all go our separate ways, okay? And so recently, your girl was like, all right, let's start going on dates. So one guy reached out to me. So normally I would talk to people for like maybe a month or two before even like meeting them. Sometimes even longer, right? And sometimes never, okay? So this person in particular reached out to me, and we matched, and I thought, okay, looks decent. Seems nice. Via conversations that we had a little bit of banter going on. Like we had a telephone call before the date or so. I think maybe 1 or 2 telephone calls before the date, or maybe a few more than that actually, because the date was scheduled. So I think we scheduled the date for the weekend, and we started talking on the Monday. Okay, so we started talking, we're just like sort of vibing the whole week, right, until the day. So I was like, okay, cool. Normally, like I said, I tend to like take my time before meeting anyone. It wouldn't have been like a week and stuff. So I guess like that was my mistake, honey, because it did not go well, okay? So we're like, okay. He was like, oh, where should we go to, blah blah blah. And so I was like, okay. I suggested a place to him, and he was like, oh yeah, funny enough, that's a place that his friend suggested, and that, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, okay, cool, sure, let's do it, that's fine. So he was like, okay, he'll come pick me up and then we can go. And I was like, all right, cool. So he came, picked me up. Of course, he doesn't know my address, guys. I didn't tell him my full address, but he came onto the like my street and then picked me up at the end of the street. So he doesn't know exactly where I live. Well, I hope so. He doesn't. I'm messing. I'm playing around. But anyways, he picked me up, right? So we get in the car now. We're like driving. Well, he's driving. I'm talking. We're both talking. We're getting along well. I'm like, okay. The vibe is kind of good. This is cool. So we're there driving now. This is like a few minutes just after leaving my house, yeah? So then he sees, so he's like, oh, your house isn't too far from Belmarsh prison. I'm like, the prison? I'm like, how you know my house ain't too far from Belmarsh prison? He's like, oh, because I have a friend that went there. I was like, are you sure it wasn't you? He's like, no, just a friend, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, what did your friend do? And then apparently he was like, oh, domestic violence. I'm like, So did you call your friend out for putting hands on his so-called partner? And then, you know, he was like, no, I didn't, because at the end of the day, you know, he was already going through a lot, and I'm sure he already knows he shouldn't do that. And so I just didn't think I should, like, you know, say anything, especially when he's already going through a hard time. I said, I don't see anything wrong in correcting your friend, right? Like, you know, at the end of the day, like, if your friend, if any of my friends ended up in prison for beating someone up, right, their partner up, right, and it wasn't self-defense, I would be like, girl, what were you thinking? Girl, you don't put hands on people. You know, it's horrible. Like, why would you put your hands on your man, or like man versus woman? Why would you ever put your hands on a woman? Like, I would absolutely say that, right? So of course I didn't say all of this to him, but I was kind of like, oh, why didn't you, like, you know, I wasn't accusatory, but I was just like, oh, why did you like say to him, or, you know, have a conversation with him about that, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you know, so he was like, well, there was no need to do so, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, cool, say less, that's fine. So then, like, we're chilling, we're driving, you know, so it was a bit of like, I think it was like about 30 minutes drive, maybe slightly more. So we had a lot more conversations to go on. So we're just talking, conversations were good. So now we got to this location, right? So the restaurant, we got to the restaurant. Yes, we had a reservation, right? But when we got to the restaurant, our table wasn't ready. And so I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, we'll wait. And then he was already like in his feelings about it. Like, he was like, you know, why should we have a, why do we have to book a reservation if our table is not going to be ready? And I'm like, okay, like it's just a slight inconvenience. It's not that deep, right? But he's like, you know, why do we have to book a table? I'm like, bro, like, chill, it ain't that deep, right? But he was getting like proper pissed off, and I was like, you have a bit of an anger thing, don't you, right? So I'm just there, you know, still trying to be a good sport, smiling. Now, in all fairness to him, he did say that he was coming back from work that day, and so I can appreciate that maybe perhaps he was tired. I appreciate that he could have been tired, you know, people could be a bit salty about that, right? But it wasn't like they made us wait for like 30 minutes. It wasn't that at all. It was like we got there, we told them. It was like 5 minutes they were trying to scramble around and try and get our tables together, like table together. It was not that deep. He was murmuring, he was just saying things under his breath. I was trying to smile. You know that awkward smile when you have to be like chill, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was very much what I was given that day, and I was a bit like, oh, this is not it, okay? So the bar was sort of like kind of close to the entrance, okay? The guy that was at the bar, like, right, so he was like, is everything okay? Because the guy kept murmuring, right? So he's like, is everything okay, bro? Like, what's going on, right? And then, you know, he said what he said. I just tried to like smile and like down it a bit and just act like, you know, it's all good, it's cool. And so now we get on this date. Oh, before I forgot to mention, whilst we're in the car, there was this girl called Becky that kept calling him, Becky with the good hair, okay? She kept calling him, and he was like, oh, you know, I don't know why she's calling me right now. I was like, okay, like, okay. And then he's like, you know, it was someone that he spoke to, someone that is interested in him, but interested in her, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, cool. Sure, whatever. Like, I'm not going to be querying you. This is first day. At the end of the day, like, don't really care who Becky is, right? Like, she could be whoever. I don't really care. So anyways, we're on the date now after they finally see us at a table. And then he's like, oh, you know, is this what this is? It's not really that. I'm like, yeah, I appreciate, like, we weren't thinking of going to, it wasn't like we were going to a fine dining. It was just a nice little cute spot. It wasn't huge or anything. Like, it was decent enough, but it wasn't like fine. It wasn't like 5-star or anything. It wasn't like you, and also it wasn't like he was, you know, giving me 5-star energy. So it wasn't like I was thinking, okay, let's go fine dining in the first place, right? So that seemed like a place that was more appropriate, okay? So anyways, another complaint. I was like, oh, right, he's a complainer. I just try to like keep my energy. Me, when I'm on dates, even when I'm irritated, or if someone constantly does stuff that annoy me, I'm just there, you know, see if we vibe. If we don't vibe, we don't have to talk again. Like, that's all right, right? So I just put it as, maybe he's had such a bad day with work and everything. Like, don't stress it. It's cool. So next thing, we're sitting down, chit-chatting, right? So we're talking and we're getting to know each other. Then he's like, oh, I've never dated. He's like, okay, I only used to date white women. I was like, okay. So I immediately thought, so why are you here on a date with me, right? So then he's like, oh, the last time he started to date black women in after the pandemic or somewhere around the pandemic. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, before that he had only dated white women, he doesn't really date black women, blah blah blah. And I was just thinking, so why are you here with me? So then he starts talking about the fact that his mom was basically advising him to get with a black woman. She will help him build, they can achieve so much together, all that stuff. You know, that was his words, not mine, right? So that's what he was saying to me, and I was just there looking like, okay. So essentially, you want to be out here on a date with me, not necessarily because you think you want to be with me or you think I'm cute, or you're kind of like, oh, you know, as a black, you're looking for a black woman that you can build with. I'm like, okay. So then we start talking about I don't know what we're talking about. We talked about like loads of different things. Now, shout out to this guy in the sense that I have to be honest, right? The conversations were generally good. There were just certain things that gave me cause for concern. This one and the next thing I'm about to mention, which was the big deal for me. So he starts talking about how some people, they get in relationships and then they end up getting messed up, and people in the relationships, like their girlfriends, you know, do something crazy, or their wives like screw them over and stuff like that. I was like, oh really? Like what? Like give me an example. It's like, yeah, like my friend who his wife, you know, put him in jail. I was like, his wife put him in jail? Like what are we talking about? And so of course I remember that he had told me earlier about that situation, which I told you guys about, but I was trying to make sure that I'm not putting words in his mouth. Like it's something that he's coming up with himself. Like it's not like, you know, I'm saying, okay, this is the same situation. Like it could be a different situation, right? So I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, like my friend. And then he gives the story of his friend that ended up in Belmarsh prison because of domestic violence. And I said, so how is it that she put him in there? He put himself there. Like, are you serious? So are we now condoning violence? Are we condoning this man hitting this woman and ended up in Belmarsh, right? Like allegedly, right? Are we condoning that? Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like, are you serious? Like I was like shocked. This was me the whole time, like really? Like are we actually being serious right now? So you're talking about a situation where you're basically making it seem like the wife was the one that put him in prison, when you said yourself that he was there for domestic violence, right? Right? So his actions put him there, not his wife. And I could not believe that he sat there and rationalized it. And I was just like, that might not have been his intention, but that is exactly what happened. And I was like, girl, if this isn't a red flag, I don't know what is, right? I was just so shocked. Like, I was like, first, you don't call your friend out for BS, then you're defending your friend for such disgusting behavior, right? And so, of course, when I called him out on it, then he's like, oh, no, he's not even trying to defend. He's just saying, like, you know, these things happen, and these things, and you try to clean it up. But, of course, there's no way you can clean that up, okay? And so, of course, I was like, just a bit like, I just want to go home. So shortly after, we're driving home now. Everything is good. He starts talking about like sexual stuff and things like that. And I was a bit like, bro, what in the world, you know? So I was like, okay, I don't really appreciate this or whatnot. So next thing, starts like trying to find out about like me and whether I'm sexually active and stuff. So I'm like, no, I'm not sexually active. He's trying to find out like, you know, when was the last time I had sex, all of those sorts of things. And I'm just thinking like, what's all of that for, right? But I think for me, the big part of it was when he then started to get angry. So I'm like, I'm not sexually active, I'm abstinent, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, you should have told me before, you wasted my time. Why am I here if that's what you are? You should have told me before. I just wasted, I feel like you just brought me here to waste my time. Just brought me here, Like he was on a rah-rah thing talking about I basically wasted his time. I just brought him out here to waste his time. And like, you know, he just basically, he was trying to imply that, oh, he just took me out on a date for nothing. And I was just there wasting his time. And I was just like, people are nuts nowadays. First of all, normally if we had talked a little bit more before we got on the date, it would have been something that would have come up in conversation. But it didn't come up in conversation. We had only a few calls before the said meetup. So how would I have led, oh, hello. Before we talk, let me just express to you that I am abstinent and that's never gonna change. Like, what the hell? Like, that does not make any sense, right? Like, I don't understand that. So for me, I was just a bit like, you know, the way he was being super aggressive towards me, like luckily we were really close to where I lived, so he just dropped me off, right? But the way he was being super aggressive and like basically telling me like, I just wasted his time, just wasted my time, I should have picked up Becky's call. I'm like, well, it's not too late, holla at Becky, maybe she'll be good for it. Like, seriously, I just could not believe the madness. I'm like, is that what you're doing? Like, so now on a first date, a woman must what? Come or sexually satisfy you because you took her on a date? Like, what has this world become? Like, what has this come up to? Like, I can't lie to y'all, like, I was a bit like, do I really want to be going out on dates no more? Like, this is insane. Like, I was just like, this is a bit mad still. But you know, that hasn't stopped me from going on dates, Sha, I must say. I put a pin in it because I didn't go anywhere for a while. But you know, I have had some good dates after that. But yeah, that was definitely my worst dating experience. I think the reason it was the worst would be because, one, he was aggressive. And the way he came at me, the aggression towards me at the end of the date was a madness. I didn't really like his interactions at the restaurants. I already knew like he wasn't someone I could have a second date with. But I think to crown it all, it was like the ZARA energy he came with, right, was a bit mad still, right, at the end. And then even after he reached out to me and still wanted to date, and still wanted to hang out, I'm like, yeah, like, it's not gonna work. It really isn't. Like, you're not abstinent, also you're aggressive. Like, how is this really going to work? So yes, that was my worst dating experience that's happened recently. Let me know in the comment section below what yours has been, if you had any. And yeah, like, how did you like navigate that, if you've had any worst experiences? Also, if you have any thoughts on what I went through, let me know in the comment section below. And please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you later. Take care, bye.